Дуже дякую.
Thank you. Thank you. First of all, I would like to tell you that as for NATO, I have mentioned this. I have talked with President Biden, also with Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. And it is important for us that we are strengthened. And the first step should be invitation. But it speaks about the fact that we will become someday a member of NATO. We understand that it might become, this future might become after the war. When the war finishes, we don't know. But the sooner we are stronger, the sooner there will be just peace attained. NATO, it's of course a bit of a sensational topic in the United States. All the time they have considered that NATO has the potential of dragging United States into war. And so there are certain red lines even by inviting Ukraine to NATO. But in my view, legally no, and this is not so. And if you really want Ukraine to be part of NATO, and if you're not only mentioning this in words, that Ukraine is very important for the security of the European continent, then it should coincide with the actions. So words and actions should go together. And that is why invitation to NATO is not at all crossing any red lines. And crossing red lines with whom? With a murderer? So invitation is a preventive step to show that it's not Putin who is changing the world. So the world is changing, is actually forming the world and its values. And the aggressor cannot create new international order. And that is why this question is very important for me. And as I said, that I have discussed it with everyone. And I would like to give you an example of my conversation on NATO issue. Well, I have already mentioned this to the leaders when I was in the European Council, and this is a good illustration. I talked to Trump about NATO because, of course, there are different signals in media and mass media about Trump's attitude to NATO, to Ukraine in NATO, and so on and so forth. I have given an example of Budapest Memorandum. I think Budapest Memorandum is a very illustrative example. We had Budapest Memorandum. There were nuclear countries, part of that, the biggest countries that have influence, that have nuclear weapons. Among these countries, of course, China, United States of America, Russia, France, of course, big players that have nuclear potential. Why with them we have negotiated to actually give up our nuclear weapons, a big volume of nuclear weapons that we had at that time, to give it away, and in return to have that document. So all the partners who are partners of that document, they guarantee territorial integrity and sovereignty to independent Ukraine in internationally recognized borders. It's signed in 1991. So that was the document. And if Russia violated that document, although Russia was part of the partners, of the guarantor country, how can you at all take it serious? How can you believe to these partners who actually promised to us that they will stand up for our sovereignty and territorial integrity? And the answer is very simple. Does it work? No. This document didn't work. If agreements of other partners with Russia worked, nothing works. So it was not only Ukraine with Russia, it was Ukraine with other partners as well. So all these agreements failed. So all these nuclear countries, which country out of all those which countries? None but Ukraine. Which country sacrificed nuclear weapons? All of them? No, only Ukraine. And who is fighting today? Only Ukraine. That is why. That is the fact. And in my conversation with Donald Trump, I said, this is the fact. So what's the way out? Either we resume having nuclear weapons, and then it will become a certain protection for us, or we should have a certain alliance. Apart from NATO, we don't know efficient alliances anymore. The countries of NATO are not in any war. They are not fighting. Members of NATO countries, people of NATO countries are all alive, and thanks God for that. That is why we choose NATO. We are not choosing nuclear weapons, we are choosing NATO. And I think that Donald Trump heard me. He said, you have good arguments. I think it's important that this war, of course, is for some time, that Putin is actually conquering incrementally. First of all, he actually broke our energy independence, and then, of course, he violated our territorial integrity. So it lasts for a while. So he was actually sabotaging many institutions. Take our SBU, take our law enforcement institutions. Everywhere we had moles from Russian Federation, and that is the interference with the sovereignty. And then, of course, territories followed because of the full-fledged aggression. There are a couple of Wall Street Journal.
Thanks a lot, Lawrence Norman, Wall Street Journal. If I may, President Zelensky,